Hello everyone and welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today wherever you are in this great world. We're gonna talk about XRP. And I gotta start with this. Second snap of the day. Ripple partner, $1,000 per XRP. And he says tokenization is happening now. That comes from Securitize. So we already know that on a small level still, tokenization is starting to gain momentum. It's not in the trillions of dollars yet. That's most likely going to happen once there's clearer regulations in place. I think that's what Archax is really waiting for here in the United States. They plan to bring $30 to $50 trillion of assets onto the XRP ledger alone. But other companies are doing the same thing right now. We have not seen the boom on tokenization yet. And I mean, you see it now. Eric Trump confirms real estate tokenization plans for World Liberty Financial. Me personally, I'm not investing in anything that Eric Trump tells me to invest in. But real estate tokenization is going to be massive because there's a lot of people out there that would invest in real estate, but they don't have enough capital to buy a whole house. They don't have enough capital to buy a hotel. So now you could start buying pieces upon pieces of one house or one hotel, or you could scatter out your investment and invest in multiple buildings at one time without buying an actual building. 5 years from now, Wall Street as you know it will be gone. Ex-TD Ameritrade CEO says on CNBC. Take a listen to this.
The people that grew up in the Web3 world and the DeFi world really are on top of their game. But it's a lot of people in the traditional finance world that still tend to struggle with this a little bit. So if you think about where the future is, 5 years from now, there's not going to be a stock, there's not going to be an option, there's not going to be a mutual fund, ETF, anything that's not in effect tokenized. Stablecoins. 5 years ago, nobody heard about stablecoins. Today, we've got about $280 billion market. And Secretary Bessent had said that two years from now, we'll probably have a $2 trillion market. Ethereum is about 60% of that. So Ethereum's got its own blockchain, and it's got programmable smart contracts that, in effect, can do really complex financial, institutional type transactions, especially overseas, that can be done almost instantaneously today, and that's going to be the way of the future. So 5 years from now, the market that we know it today, the exchanges, 24/7 markets and settlement, et cetera, that's going to be the way of the future. And I'm not sure traditional finance has necessarily quite accepted that.
I think traditional finance is not ready for it yet. I think a lot of these big bankers, they're trying to hold off as long as they can. They know the future is coming fast, but they want to avoid it as long as they possibly can. But take notice how they always shill Ethereum or Bitcoin. Wait until they realize an entire new financial system is coming, and Bitcoin and ETH are not going to be part of it. It's going to be utility-driven cryptocurrencies running the entire show. And at the core, you're also going to have AI. And I talked about BlackRock tokenizing those Bitcoin ETFs for such a long time, and everybody thought I was crazy. Well, take a listen to this.
I do believe we're just at the beginning of the tokenization of all assets, from real estate to equities to bonds across the board.
It's very loud here.
It is very loud.
But it's good. Capital's at work. You like that.
I love capital at work.
Yeah.
But there's $4.1 trillion of money sitting globally in digital wallets. A lot of that money is outside the United States. If we could tokenize a ETF, digitize that ETF, we could have investors who are just beginning to, invest in markets through, let's say, crypto. They're investing in it, but now we could get them into the more traditional long-term retirement products So we look at that as the next wave of opportunity for BlackRock over the next tens of years, as we start moving away from traditional financial assets by repotting them in a digital manner, and then.
What he's calling for is the digitization of everything. But take notice, he talked about ETFs. Those Bitcoin ETFs are going to become tokenized assets. And people are no longer going to even have to buy Bitcoin. They could just buy the ETFs. He wants to tokenize everything of value. And I said this like a year and a half ago, and people were like, they're never going to tokenize those Bitcoin ETFs. I said then, Larry Fink is going to tokenize everything he possibly can. And now you see it's coming. National Cryptocurrency Association addressed what Brad Garlinghouse said in an interview earlier today. You probably heard the phrase, Bitcoin doesn't have a CEO. It's true, and it highlights the independence and neutrality of open blockchains. But it's not only true for Bitcoin. Tokens such as Ethereum, XRP, Solana, and Cardano all operate on public and permissionless networks, meaning anyone can build on them. None of them have a CEO. Today, 55 million Americans use crypto to improve their lives. What connects them all is access. Everyone's invited and everyone can participate. The reason that they always say Bitcoin doesn't have a CEO is because these Bitcoin maxis don't take out 2 seconds to even research the fact that XRP also does not have a CEO. One thing that really pisses me off is how they try to separate Bitcoin from crypto. It's like you have Bitcoin, then you have crypto. But reality is this: Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, no different from any other cryptocurrency out there, except for the fact that it doesn't have utility like XRP does. That's what sets XRP apart. Anthony Pompliano is full of it. I never like to play a whole video clip in my videos, but this one is definitely worth listening to. Take a listen.
And so I think that Bitcoin is the king of the crypto market. It's going to remain the king of the crypto market. And I think it's probably the only truly institutional asset that you're going to see central banks and others start to buy over time.
What do you think about XRP, the conversations with XRP, with Ripple, whether it's the technology or the coin?
I think that the market is very, very good at figuring out where value ends up accruing. And what you see in, let's call it outside of Bitcoin, in the top 10 coins, what you will start to see is Bitcoin's dominance has not only remained constant, it has actually gone up over time. And so I think that the market is assigning Bitcoin as kind of in a class of its own. Now, if you then go into, let's say, coins 2 through 10, what you start to find is those are much more akin to me to like technology stocks. There's a lot of competition there, right? So take XRP. My understanding is that they have a couple of different things that they've done. They're trying to do the stablecoin, right? Well, they've got a lot of competition from Tether, Circle. Now all of a sudden Stripe's getting in the game. Like there's a whole bunch of competition. There will probably be multiple winners, but it's heavy, heavy competition. On top of that, one of the things that is interesting to me, not so much about XRP, the coin, but about Ripple, the company, is they have this kind of engine to generate profit and monetize that XRP. They've started to acquire real companies. So what they did is they bought, I think one of the companies was called Hidden Road, and these are like big acquisitions. These aren't like $5 acquisitions. These are like $1 billion+ acquisitions that they're doing.
Rob, can you pull up companies Ripple acquired?
And so what you're starting to see is, again, there's incredible controversy and debate, I think, over is XRP going to be sustainable? Is it something that people are going to use? But what they've started to do is they started to take them. I mean, look, $200 million acquisition, $1.25 billion acquisition, $250 million acquisition, right? And so what they're doing is they're essentially using the monetization of their balance sheet, and they're starting to acquire real companies. Now, what I will say is we have seen this happen in traditional finance over time. You have a company that has very controversial or maybe unsustainable kind of business model, but they have some access to capital, and they begin to convert that into something else. And look, the Bitcoin treasury companies, a lot of them had companies that weren't working, and they said, well, why don't I just start to buy Bitcoin? And all of a sudden, they kind of revived their business. And so I think that this is very interesting. Now, there's kind of a delineation between XRP and Ripple, but I think that this acquisition stuff, people in the industry, even the people who don't like XRP, I think are saying to themselves, hey, that Hidden Road, that's a real company. pay $1.25 billion
right.
for it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you may be able to end up with an entire set of infrastructure there that you can then go and actually build a business with.
What does Hidden Road do?
Hidden Road, if I remember correctly, they do a lot of it's like market infrastructure, right? So like again, it goes back to this idea of where value accrues in the crypto industry is really kind of two, and really in finance in general. There's two buckets. You have the retail facing platforms, and then you have institutional facing like infrastructure. And so the retail platforms, that's your Coinbases, Binances, Geminis, Tethers, all those guys. But then you've got this like institutional infrastructure, everything from market making to, here you go. So like a global credit network for institutions, prime brokerage, clearing, financing, right? All this stuff that is very institutional in nature.
Is it like a Pershing? Is that what would it be considered? Is Hidden Road company Ripple acquire like a Pershing company? What is a Hidden Road? Yes, it is. Okay, sounds good. So I got it. I understand it. Okay, I mean that's a big deal to buy something like that at 1.25 billion. And the guy that's running it, I think his name is Brad. I can't say his last name. Yeah, he seems like a very intellectual guy. He's involved on I've seen him with the Trump administration, a couple different things with them. But he doesn't just sound like one of these guys that came and created a coin. Hey, let's sell a bunch of stuff and then let's go. They're actually creating technology and buying technology. Good for them. So you're optimistic because you hear some people talk about Ripple could replace Swift. Possibility of that. Of course, the likelihood of that happening is less than 5%.
I wouldn't go that far. In terms of, I think I know Brad. I think Brad is a nice guy. I think that the strategy that they're pursuing at Ripple is, if you were in their situation, I think it's very smart to go and acquire these businesses. I've always just said that my focus is on Bitcoin because I think of that there's two problems in the world that I care about, and they're very interrelated. The first is I believe that the single biggest issue, if you can correct this one issue, it will have a profound impact on people's lives around the globe, is if you can basically stop the debasement of the currency. If you can stop that, then all of a sudden now what you do is you stop this silent theft, and now you allow people to actually keep the economic value that they've worked hard to earn. And so Bitcoin to me is the solution to that problem. There's kind of this heuristic of people have been complaining about this for decades, centuries, right? If you go back through all these societies, Bitcoin is the first technology solution to the problem. And so I think that is a very profound solution that is going to have an impact that we quite don't understand yet, frankly, right? So I think that's one big problem. The second problem that I'm very interested in is this idea of the little guy or the quote-unquote retail investor being able to get a level playing field against these large institutions. And I think that those two issues are very interrelated because now what we know in this country is you can't be a saver, you need to be an investor. As these retail folks realize I have to become an investor, they need access to information, they need access to the market.
So the part that he missed when it comes to retail, most people cannot buy one whole Bitcoin. So any retail investor out there right away says to themselves, I need to look at something that I could actually stack a decent bag of. If you can't buy one whole Bitcoin, you're never going to get rich off of Bitcoin. And they like to go down the lines of debasement of the money. And they always want you to put your money into Bitcoin instead of keeping it in a bank account. And I would agree with that to some extent. My problem is with this. If you want to make a lot of money in this space, you buy something other than Bitcoin. The return on investment is so much higher with XRP. And take notice, he also was talking about Ripple will never replace Swift. What they don't factor in is this. The United States weaponized the SWIFT system. Countries are tired of it. Most people that use the SWIFT system, they're also tired of it. They don't like the fees. They don't like the wait times. They want real-time payments, and they want it now. So if you build an alternative to SWIFT, people will come over to that alternative all day long. You're going to be signing up new customers every single day to the alternative to SWIFT. But the reason that they don't like the idea of Ripple replacing SWIFT is because when that happens, guess what else XRP does? It replaces the need for their precious Bitcoin. And then let's go back a minute to retail getting invested into Bitcoin, like using it like a store of value. We see how well Bitcoin holds up under tariff talk. We see how well Bitcoin holds up whenever there's conflict in the world. It is not a good store of value. It's a store of propped up fake tether. That's what Bitcoin actually is. And let's go back to 2017 when the same Anthony Pompliano said, if you think Bitcoin went on a tear once CNBC and institutional investors learned about it, just wait until they discover Ripple XRP. Wait until the mainstream media news is talking about XRP. Retail will then be priced out. What are the biggest challenges keeping stablecoins from becoming truly global money? This comes from Ripple. So they say real-world use cases are already here. Stablecoins have moved beyond crypto speculation and are now solving tangible problems in areas like business-to-business, cross-border payments, payroll for digital businesses, and settlement in tokenized markets, proving their utility in the traditional economy. Interoperability must be a first principle of design. I agree with that. Everything has to be interoperable. If not, it's never going to work. Regulatory harmonization is the biggest barrier and opportunity. Inconsistent rules and definitions across jurisdictions are the primary obstacle to global adoption, creating walled gardens that limit fungibility. That's why I keep telling you, you're not going to see different regulations going from one country to another. Regulations worldwide, they're going to be like global stablecoin regulations because every single country has to have similar regulations or cross-border payments will never work. And we already know that Tether cannot pass MiCA regulations. So that's where the problem is going to really begin with USDT. Stablecoins should be boring. Stablecoins should be reliable and predictable payment instruments, not speculative assets. This boring stability is a key feature that builds the trust necessary to integrate into financial infrastructure. Remember when everybody was rushing to buy RLUSD? When we knew it was a stablecoin and it's meant to be pegged to $1. But people in this market, they want to buy it because they want to be the first ones to hold it. Standards and definitions will delay global usability. A lack of shared legal classifications and technical standards create friction and uncertainty. Adopting common frameworks for compliance and messaging is the critical groundwork for a truly functional and global system. What we're going to have in the future with regulations is everything is going to have a label. You're going to have Bitcoin, speculative asset, XRP, utility-driven cryptocurrency, actually solves a real-world problem. And once that happens, institutions aren't going to be buying Bitcoin. They're going to be buying whatever solves a real-world problem because then it has real-world value. It won't be long until we reach 1 billion Fxrp. Just 3 weeks in and 20 million Fxrp have been minted, with half already put to work in Flare Networks DeFi. Here's where that XRP is going. Take a listen.
So the early numbers are telling us that a lot of the Fxrp is actually going either into like the collateral pools for the specific agents, or they're generally being deposited into Kinetic. So we're seeing large demand on the borrow lend side and the agent collateral side. I do think eventually we'll get to this kind of state of where most of our retail users and institutions have onboarded their XRP, and people will look into the DeFi ecosystem or further and further into the DeFi ecosystem to build strategies to generate yield.
I think the way you're going to build safe yield is with more retail participation and institutional participation as well. In other words, once you onboard a lot of XRP, it's going to build a better, stronger network for yield earning down the road. I just don't think we're quite there yet. Volatility Shares has proposed 5x XRP exchange traded funds, and it's insanely risky. They even mention it in this article. Anybody offering you 5% yield right now, most likely it's going to be at a very high risk. We're not at the point yet where there's no risk involved when earning yield. That will come later with the institutions entering this space. Right now, it's more of a buy XRP, hold XRP, and then wait for the price to go parabolic for XRP. Because we're so close to institutional adoption. I don't want to put my XRP out there until I get some sort of guarantee on my XRP. I think we will get that later in this space. Crypto is still a bit of Wild West, MIT says, and I agree with that. Until we have regulations in the United States, it's still going to be the Wild West in crypto. People could still lose everything very fast in this space. But it depends on what you're investing in. If you're investing in something that has actual value, that solves a real world problem, I don't look at it as gambling. I look at it as a sure win. You're buying a lottery ticket when you're buying XRP. But the wild, wild west days of crypto, they're absolutely coming to an end. And when that happens, we're going to see 3 different bottlenecks, in my opinion. I think we're going to see a bottleneck with stablecoins. Some stablecoins are going to lose their peg and they're going to be gone because of regulations. I think we're also going to see a bottleneck in crypto as well. 99% of crypto will disappear. And we're also going to see a bottleneck with exchanges. A lot of exchanges are not doing know your customer or anti-money laundering. And this is going to look like a black swan event in crypto when that happens. Because all of a sudden, everything's going to be plummeting down. And everybody's going to be panicking. But soon as the regulations are in place, right away, certain cryptocurrencies are really going to start to break out. Because the money is going to be moving away from meme coins. It's got to go somewhere. So it's going to end up in real value. Most people are not going from a meme coin into Bitcoin. It's just not going to happen. They're used to making 1,000x gains on meme coins through gambling. They're not going to go into something that maybe will give you a 2x in this run. I don't even see a 2x left for Bitcoin, honestly. I see these people saying it's going to 500K. It's going to $1 million. But it's the Bitcoin marketing team saying that. All the same familiar faces you see all over the mainstream media news every day. They need to onboard retail and use them as exit liquidity. They're going to get the signal when the top is in. These big bag holders, they're already going to be out, and retail's going to be left holding the bag. And us as XRP investors, we are going to see a parabolic run in crypto. I'm telling you right now, XRP is going to melt faces in this run. All you got to do is be here when it happens. And until it does happen, stay patient, stay positive, and let's get rich together. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.